there, sewing friends, and welcome back to another review and unboxing with Emporium Threads. Today we're going to be reviewing the Elna ef1. Now, the Elna ef1 is just another machine in the series of semi-industrial machines that I have been procuring and bringing here on the channel to unbox for you and just review and give a general opinion from the standpoint of a bag maker who is looking for a semi-industrial machine. So this machine, like the others, is considered a straight stitch machine. It's got a more heavier duty motor, a little bit faster motor than your normal domestic machine. And then of course, the parameters that I am using for these reviews kind of all stick within the same wheelhouse. So relatively the same budget. You don't have to go to a dealer to get these machines, so they're pretty much accessible to almost everybody. And they all contain about the same set of features, give or take a few things on each machine, and if the machine possibly comes with some extra accessories for the money. So if you are on the hunt for a semi-industrial machine for your bag making, hobby, or business, follow along with this series and check out all of the videos that we have for all of these machines, and hopefully they can help you to find the machine that is right for you. All right, so before we get into the full unboxing of this video and then our subsequent review, as always, it's important to me to mention just a little disclaimer that I am not sponsored by or affiliated with these companies in any way. These are all machines that I have procured with my own money. They were not given to me. I was not told or coerced to do these reviews. I am simply on the hunt for a machine and looking for the one that is right for me. So, that being said, let's get into all the details about this machine and then let's unbox it. As previously mentioned, this machine in my research seemed to fit in really well with all the other machines that I've been reviewing. It seemed to have about the same machine speed and the same kind of qualities that make something a semi-industrial machine, basically what's also known as a straight stitch machine. So this one in particular, though, was a little bit harder to shop for. I was unable to really get a very clear picture on what exact features that it had. So I'm hoping that it ends up being an apples to apples comparison with some of the other machines that I've done, but no promises on that. We might get in here and it may not exactly be the thing that I was thinking it was, but I'm hopeful about it. So let's get into this one. Price point on this one, first off, about $1,300. Of course, that's going to depend on where you get it from. But this one is one of the more expensive machines that I have done so far. And I'm hoping that's going to mean that the other things I didn't like about the other machines, I'm hoping that's going to mean that it is, paying a little bit more is going to solve the few issues that I had, right? But maybe not. Okay, so what usually happens, obviously I open the box in front of you guys, but it's so big and kind of so hard to get in here. I often have to set it on the floor to get it out. So I'll get the manuals and things out of here, but then we might have to move it. So right up here on top, always good to have, we've got our packet of information, our warranty, our manual, all that good stuff. And then we have our knee lift mechanism there, the little guy that goes in there. And then it looks like we've got a really nice clear plastic box of accessories, which we'll lay out and go through. This is the first machine so far that's come in this nice little plastic box instead of just a baggie. So that's kind of nice. Clearly you are getting, a little bit more for your money that you're spending. So that's nice. At least they're trying. And then this machine, it looks like this is one where it's in two pieces side by side, so I am going to have to put it down to get everything out. And it's a little hard to see. Let's see. Looks like maybe a dust cover. A little hard to tell what this is, but something that's here on top. And I think that's everything. I think that's everything. So let me get this box on the floor. All right, so before we get, too deep in here, I'm gonna have to clean this machine up a little bit. The styrofoam kind of got all over the place here. So I'm gonna grab myself like a Swiffer and a vacuum so I can kind of clean this off a little bit, and then we'll continue with the review. Oh, that's way better. All right, I happened to put this machine backward facing first when I lifted it up here on the table, and all I did prior was just clean off some little bits of styrofoam packing material. The machine was not dirty by any means, but there were little bits of styrofoam all over it just from transport, and I wanted us to have a clean machine to be able to focus on. So since we're looking at the back, we're going to start right back here. We have a vented area here that on the side contains our power switch, and then our foot pedal and our power cord plugins. We've got our thread stand here with 2 large spools, and I think this looks like it will hold the king spool, which is important. And then we've got a telescoping assembly here for our threading, all of the things that we're gonna have to do threading for a bobbin or our upper tension. So right here, we also have a first position or possibly a second position right here for part of our threading steps. And then we also have some tension discs over here that are going to probably aid in winding a bobbin or possibly our first position for our upper threading. And we'll figure that out when we get over to the table with it and explore how everything works. The other thing I really like here is we've got a handy graphic right on top that faces the user. So it's upside down for you, but it's facing me correctly. And it's got numbers 1 through 6 all over the top here. And they are telling you how to, which positions to go to first and in what order to wind a bobbin. Now, I really like this. After you've had a machine for a while, you probably wouldn't need it, but if you have multiple machines, this can be a really handy thing so you don't have to carry around your manual or any quick guides. And I love that it's got the pictures here. It looks very self-explanatory, so that's going to be really helpful when we get over to the table and we start exploring how to set this machine up. So I do really like that. Other things we've got here on top are our setup for winding a bobbin. We've also got a switch here, which is likely going to be for our foot pressure. And I think that's all that we've got here that we can see so far. So now I'll turn this machine around for you. All right, so now we're looking at the front. One thing you're going to notice about this machine from the beginning that is different than all the other ones, it's not white. This machine is a really gorgeous, in my opinion, vintage mint green color. It's very, very soft. It's a beautiful shade. It's not too blue, not too green. Personally, this is one of my favorite colors, and it is the color of my studio here that I am in. It's also my business color, so I am obviously very partial to this color, and it was one thing that really excited me about this machine. If this machine turns out to be good, and I end up taking it to a retreat or anywhere else, I love the fact that there will be no confusing my machine with anybody else's. Now, that's if this one happens to work out, so fingers crossed, because I absolutely adore the color. I think that is so fun. So facing the front now, other things we've got, a collapsible handle. Underneath that handle, they even took the time to put little felt pads so that when it touches the machine, it's not rubbing it too hard. So I really like that. It shows some attention to detail. We have got our throat plate right here, which actually on this machine, the throat plate pops all the way out. Just uses these little feet to hold in. And then after we pop the plate off, we have a side door here. And we can see we've got the bobbin assembly right in here, have a really nice clear view, and if you have bigger hands like me, lots of accessibility. So I do like that. This is a very heavy machine, heavier definitely than some of the other ones that I have recently reviewed, so that perhaps will speak to quality. I hope that it does in the end. But the lever here to lift the presser foot feels really, really nice. Everything feels nice and solid here within this mechanism, so or mechanism area, I should say. So that's perhaps a plus. Of course, we've got, tip this back so I can see a little bit better here. So we've got what appears to be a needle up and down position button here, but I'm just guessing. This here looks like it is for winding the bobbin. One of the features here I'm most excited about is this ability to dumb down the motor, as we say, so make it slower or faster or keep it neutral in the middle. Not only do you have foot pedal control, but in case you're not so great with the foot pedal or the foot pedal's not super dialed in, we have an extra ability to curtail our speed here, which for me is really an important feature, something that I've been missing on some of these industrials I've been working with. This knob here right on the top is going to be our presser foot pressure. So the indicator's right here on the front to go with this knob. We've got two sets of tension here. We've got a pre-tension right here, and then we have our kind of normal tension right here. That's a telescoping knob, and it clicks as we go in and out. So that's a nice indicator. Over here, we've got a button for trimming the thread when we're done stitching. We've got a reverse lever here, which feels really nice quality. It is plastic, but it feels, again, within the mechanisms in here, it feels pretty good quality. So I'm really excited to sew with this one. And then working our way down here, I'm going to take a glance underneath. I see, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay. This is very exciting to me. There is a light right here in the throat space, but there's also a light over here by the needle. So that is like huge bonus points. I am so excited for that. It's something I've been missing on some of these other machines. Their throat plate on this machine also has a few more markings on it, which is really nice. We've got 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch. But we also have markings in between all of those, and then we have millimeters down here for those who are not going to be using these measurements up top. So that's also really, really exciting. I can see the foot that came on the machine here is a compensating foot, so that's great. That's the type of foot that has the feet look like this. One of the prongs is shorter, and one of the prongs on the foot is longer. So that's actually compensating for bulk as you're sewing over different seams. So I like that it came with that. I think that really is everything here. We do have a hole here on the front for the knee lift. And then I'm going to guess that this slot here is going to be something for an extension table, which it does not appear that this machine came with one at this price. I am almost certain they probably sell one, but it's the first machine I've reviewed in this series that has not come with the extension table. Now it is worth noting though that this has a nice big bed and a nice big throat space. So let's get this over to the table. I am really excited to get into this one and see how it sews. Okay. I jumped the gun a little bit. I got so excited about this machine because I just love the color and I'm really excited about the features. I completely forgot to talk about the rest of the things that came in the box. So let's do that. When I pulled everything out on the floor, of course, we ended up with a foot pedal, and then we had a power cord, and those were just kind of nested in there with the machine. So we, of course, have both of those things. Our foot pedal feels pretty good. It appears that it's got some anti-slip stuff here on the bottom, so that's always nice. And it looks like it's a good size too. This came in the box. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it's a dust cover, but let's open it up and see. That is exactly what it is. It is a vinyl dust cover. Not that it is a huge drawback on the machine, but this is not one of the nicer dust covers that I have seen. To be frank, I don't use any of my dust covers, so probably not going to be any kind of a deal breaker for me, but out of all the machines I reviewed, not the nicest. This one does not have a logo of any kind on it. It doesn't have the machine name. And frankly, the color, it's a little stark white, and the black and white color on here doesn't even match the cute kind of vintage feel of this machine. So that's a little disappointing. Not any kind of a deal breaker, but just something to something to think about. Set that aside. As mentioned before, we have this knee lift lever here. I will point out on this knee lift lever, this one has kind of, it's not padded, it's plastic, but at least it's finished. One of the things about one of the previous machines I didn't care for, it's just kind of a bent rod. And while it's polished and all of that, it just doesn't feel finished, I guess. So I really like that this has this kind of, finish at the end of the rod here. So hopefully we can get this knee lift to work with my setup. Also, as mentioned before, we've got our warranty pack here, and I am going to pull the warranty pack apart, and the manuals, the warranties left there. We've got what appears to be a bit of a quick guide to some of the things that come in there in this package, I'm assuming, so that's nice. And then, of course, we have our instruction book, and typically in the instruction book, there is some sort of key as to what is included in this box, so I'm going to look for that now. All right, I have gone ahead and laid out all the accessories that came in this nice plastic little box they give you. Of course, it did all come in a bag, and I just put that in here. So we do have a nice key here in the manual. Typically, there is one to explain what everything is if you are not familiar. Now, just in no particular order here, we have a thread net for your spools. We've got a cleaning brush. We've got a package of needles here. It comes with 5 needles. It comes with 2 11-sized needles, 1 14-size needle, 1 16-size needle, and 1 9-size needle. And these are all HL5 needles, and they are providing Oregon brand needles here. We've got 2 screwdrivers here, both of which are flathead. One is a smaller size, one is larger. We have a small bottle of oil for our machine. We've got one of the little booster caps, or also for the king spools to keep the large spools from moving. So it's a spool adapter here. We have the cloth guide along with its screw to install that. We have a spool cap here. We've got 4 extra bobbins, and I'm assuming there's probably one more in the machine for a total of 5. And then we also have a hemming foot, and then we've got what they're calling a darning foot, and a special plate that goes with the darning foot, and that special plate has no markings or any kind of seam allowance guides on it because it's just for darning. So in addition to these things, the knee lift, the cover, this covers everything that went into the box and then came out of the box. So now that we've gone over that, we can head over to the table and get ourselves all set up. All right. As usual, I've got the machine turned a little bit toward you instead of toward me because I'm not working at the moment and we're still kind of talking about the features here, and I want you to be able to see the front of the machine really well. This dial over here on the side, there are 2. There's our hand wheel, of course, but there is a dial here on the side. This is actually our stitch length adjustment knob. So you've got a small window with a number, and as you turn the dial, that actually changes here in the window, and then of course there's an emblem here reminding you what it is. So I do like that as you click, there's an audible noise, so you can kind of dial in these tiny little clicks for your stitch length. So that is kind of nice. You're not just guessing when you turn it. That is the same up here for our presser foot. There are some small indications and clicks, but there's also a window here on the front to tell you exactly where you are, along with a small emblem of a presser foot and arrows down, to remind you. There is also, in addition to all of our threading positions up here for winding a bobbin, here on the front there's actually some small reminders of how you are supposed to have all of your items in your correct thread path when you thread. So that's really nice too. After a while, you probably won't need that, but when you're new to a machine or you work on multiple machines, it can be a really handy thing to have that on here. So I'm not upset about that at all. I have got it plugged into power. I've got our foot pedal plugged in as well. And then I do have the manual just sitting here open in case I need as I go through things, because again, This machine is just as new to you as it is to me. So let's fire it up and let's see what it does. So first thing is first, I hope you can see it up there on the camera. Let there be light. Oh my gosh, this is the first semi-industrial machine that I have done anything with that has this much light. I'm so excited. That was one thing that was sorely lacking on all the other machines. So I am just ecstatic. There's a light right here, right toward the front, which is fantastic. And then we've also actually got two lights over here on the side. There are two LED lights up here in this little area next to the needle. So our throat plate is nice and bright. I can see all of these markings really well. And even with a project in here, I can still see if one side is blocked or I have a bunch of stuff under my needle, which seriously, I'm in my studio right now and I have great lighting, but you may be traveling, you may be in a hotel room, you may be somewhere like your RV if you're a full-time RVer, or you may just not have great dedicated light in your space. So I think this is a really fantastic feature. I'm so happy to have finally found a semi-industrial with more light in this price point. So other things we notice right off the bat here, we've got an indicator light on right here. There are two arrows. One, they both are lit. One points up, one points down right now. The arrow for up is lit, so that tells me that that is our needle up and down position. So when we stop sewing, we will have our needle up. It will automatically come up. If we want it to be down, I'm assuming we're going to push that button, our light's going to switch over. There we are. And we actually even get a color indication change. So it was green over here for the up. Now it is red for the down. So that's kind of nice. If it gets changed somehow and you don't know, you've even got a color indication here, not just a light that's on in the same area. So the next thing that we have is bobbin, which I am not fully sure what this is. We're going to have to look up that feature. I assumed it was to wind the bobbin, and it may still be, not 100% sure about that. And then again, we have our speed indicator here. No light or anything for that. You're just purely using the picture. Over here, we've got that thread cutting button. And then I have my stitch length just set. I'm going to set that to about a 3.5 before I forget. And I think that's pretty much everything that we've gone over here. So the next thing to try to figure out is how to wind a bobbin. I'll be consulting my manual for that. I am going to just try to use the diagram up here on top, but you know, anybody's guess if it's actually going to be easy to figure out or not. Let's double check the machine, see if we have a bobbin in here already. Let's get our needle fully up. So we did have a bobbin within the machine. I've got a little bit of oil there, not a ton, but enough that tells me that things are well oiled in the machine. That's a good sign, but the bobbin is empty. So let's get that wound. All right, for my test today, I'm going to be using the Wizardry from geekyhardware.com. This is the Wizardry thread. It's a polyester bonded thread. I'm using the color Christmas red because, as you can see in the background here, I have a project we're going to use to test, and it's what matches my project. So this is a Tex 45 thread, and I want to use this for my test because ultimately one of the things I am looking for in a semi-industrial machine is the ability to use in both the bobbin and the top a thicker Tex thread. I do not want to have to use a thinner domestic style machine thread if I can avoid it. So for my test, I'm winding this and we're going to use it. All right, I have figured out how to thread it properly and get our bobbin winder going. This diagram was incredibly helpful. I did not need to consult the manual whatsoever. It's already started to wind, but I'm going to finish winding it. This button here, I did assume correctly, it is for winding the bobbin. You just have to have it clicked over into the bobbin winding position up top, and then you go ahead and press the button. So let's finish winding this bobbin and let's see if it stops itself or, what it decides to do when it is all finished. Lovely. So that audio that you just heard was not doctored in any way. This machine is, at least in this step, incredibly quiet and very smooth. I didn't notice any kind of like clunking, grinding, incredibly, incredibly quiet. So I'll be really interested to see if it sews as quietly as well. One thing that this machine did differently that the others did not, when it was all done winding, it went ahead and clicked itself out of that gear. It actually popped over versus the other ones have just stopped, and then I have to take it out of the gear to wind the bobbin. So that's really interesting. I like that it did that. Frankly, I'm used to that on both of my other machines. Not any kind of a deal breaker or anything, but it's just kind of a one less thing you have to deal with, and it is pretty nice. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim my bobbin thread and just pop my bobbin right off. I do need to look in the manual here to see how it wants this inserted into our bobbin case. All right, I am using the manual. There is a very handy step-by-step numbered guide here to show us how we are to enter, how we are to insert the bobbin into the case, and then how we are to insert the bobbin case into the full assembly. So this one wants us to pull the hook out when we do it, or the latch, excuse me, it wants us to pull that out. It says we should have about 4 inches of thread sticking out, and then we're going to go ahead and put it in like this. So we should be looking at this part here with our thread sticking out of the little window, and we're just going to line it up in there. And it says it should just kind of lock into place, and I did feel it lock. So we don't get an audible click here, but we do get a 2-step kind of lock feel. So that feels pretty good. It also says, it also gives us, really detailed instructions on how our bobbin should be looking, that it wants the thread clockwise, and it also wants the bobbin case, when you're pulling the thread through the case, that it wants the bobbin to spin clockwise, and it gives you really detailed pictures on all of that here in the manual, both written instruction and picture, and the pictures are numbered even with the instructions. So really handy for a first timer, somebody who's trying to learn a new machine. Definitely bonus points on whoever decided to write this manual, because it's got a lot of really easy to digest information on every single page. Really, really easy to go through and teach yourself everything you need to know. I think out of all of the machines that I have looked at so far, this one probably has the best explanation on these guides as well as in our actual paper manual. So bonus points for that. Really like what I'm seeing so far. So now we can close this up. We just insert, there are little kind of prong feet on the front here. So we're going to insert that right into the machine like this, and then just gently press down and then close the side door. So I'll move this so that I can see, since I'm going to attempt to thread our top positioning here, and then also we're going to get started sewing. Okay, so we're going through, you guys can't see it, but I have my little thread guide here telescoped to the top. So we do not need this first position here on the bottom. We're just coming through the telescoped thread guide bar here on top. This is our first position right here for threading. So we are instructed to come through the back side like so, and then we are going to go over and come through the back side again into the third hole. Here we go. Just like so. Then we're going to slip through these tension discs. Now I can tell right now there's no tension on this whatsoever, so I am going to crank that down just a little bit, get some tension on that spring so I can keep these discs closed. Okay, now I've got just a little bit of tension on those discs, which we may have to mess with that later. I'm going to make sure that this hook on the assembly here is all the way at the top position, just while I'm thinking about it. So after we come through here, again, our foot is up, so we're coming through the tension discs here, over this check spring, Then we're going to come down underneath this large silver hook here. We're going to go through this hook. Then we're going to come through this guy up here on top once more, through the same assembly again. Then we're going to go down. Now there is a guide for this portion here. We're going through number 6, right there. Then it appears like we will go through number 7 here at the bottom, and now we're ready to thread the needle. So we do have an automatic needle threader here on this machine. Let's see how that works. So I have to say, without a doubt, that is the best needle threader out of any of the machines I have used so far. I literally just popped the needle threader over, pushed it to the left, brought my thread right underneath the hook, and then went ahead and pulled back and let go, and it is threaded. There is no convoluted dragging the thread through anything else. I didn't have to put the foot down to be able to do it. I didn't have to do anything crazy with this, and I didn't have to practice it 10 or 11 times. On previous review videos, if you've watched those, you've seen some of these needle threaders are just so incredibly hard to work, and the instructions on them are frankly not even correct. They're like missing steps, or what they're telling you to do doesn't make sense. This one is so straightforward. So to whoever engineered that, again, just props so far on everything with this machine. In theory, it seems to seriously tick all of the boxes. So I am just really stoked on this machine so far, and gosh, I hope it sews well. I really, really hope it sews well. Okay, I think that I am all set to try to sew and see how this works. I went ahead and zoomed you in here so that you can see how this goes. I have just a scrap of Ottertex waterproof canvas here, and then I also have a scrap of vinyl as well. This is just plain old marine vinyl. It's not a velvet backed. It has maybe 5% stretch or less, and it's a little bit spongy, definitely about a little over 1 millimeter thick. So that'll kind of give you an idea of what I am testing here. I'm going to fold this over because I want to try it through 2 layers of vinyl, and I'll end up doing the same thing through 2 layers of the waterproof canvas. Right now I have my stitch length set on about a 3.8. I'm using just the foot that the machine came with, and I have our feed dogs just set as they were. I don't think there's any kind of way for us to change the feed dog settings. There may be, but not readily available to us. So I'm just going to leave everything as it is. And again, we are using that 20 weight thread. It's the Tex 45, and then whatever needle this came with from the factory. Let's try it out. Oh, fingers crossed. All right, I have the needle down position set here, so I have just stopped sewing. The needle stayed down. I'm now going to try to use the thread cutter. Well, that did not go as well as I wanted it to, the thread cutter. It was a little clunky. Sounds like maybe something may have gotten caught there. I might need to look at the settings and see if it wants me to not have the foot down, not have the foot up. We may have just caused ourselves a problem. But as far as the actual sewing goes, you can see this tension. This is a line I just did. It's 2 layers of waterproof canvas. We're set at a tension of 4. I have my presser foot set at about a 3.5. And then we didn't mess with the bobbin case tension at all. And this is again with that 20 weight thread. It's a Tex 45 bonded polyester. So really, I am pretty happy with that. I don't know if I did something wrong with the thread cutter. I'm going to try that one more time. And when it went off there, it sounded a little unhappy, so we might have a problem sewing now if we have something caught in the bobbin. But let's try again. Okay. I'm thinking, not 100% sure on this, we'll check the manual. The machine doesn't like to cut when the needle is positioned down, is what I'm thinking. I don't know, because as soon as I raised this, it let go and it was much happier and then it worked well. So we'll try it one more time with our needle indicator set to the top, and then we will see if that does any better. But again, we got a really nice clean result that time. I am really, really happy with that. I'd like to see it go through, you know, multiple layers here of vinyl. It definitely did better that time with the cutting, but it does sound just a little bit clunky. I'm not exactly sure, only on the thread cutting part. Something sounds a little clunky and off, so I'll have to double check into that. But if I had to sacrifice a thread cutter for everything else on this machine, I think I absolutely would so far. I am wholly impressed. I do have it set on the lowest speed right now because I want to feel the pedal control, but the pedal feels very responsive and very dialed in. Now, I won't know fully until we get more tests and we start sewing with a real project. However, it's much better and feels much more dialed in than the previous two machines. So in this case, preliminarily from the beginning, I'm just going to say it seems like we're getting what we paid for. Again, this machine is at the $1,300 price point. It's the priciest so far of all of the machines that I have reviewed in the semi-industrial category. But again, between this one and the mid-grade model, which frankly I liked the least out of all of them so far, I'm willing to pay just a few $100s more to get what I'm getting in this machine, which so far sounds like a very quiet motor, a nicer bobbin winder, an extra light in my throat space over here on this side, as well as two lights here instead of one. They are also a much brighter, nicer, cleaner LED look versus the other two lights seem like they're a bit more on the cheaper side and the color's not quite as nice. But we also get the ability to turn our speed down here on the machine, which I really, really like. So far, I'm really very impressed. Let's try this on just a couple of layers of marine vinyl. I folded this over, no stabilizer or anything, just 2 layers of marine vinyl. I'm going to lengthen my stitch length just a little bit because we're not using a Teflon foot. So when I just go ahead and pull the project out here, which by the way, there is a thread cutter over here on the side. It's a very slim design. You almost don't even notice it. This definitely seems better than a few of the other ones because they were so big and bulky here. It was almost like I couldn't maneuver my project underneath it. So this time I cut with scissors. Next time I will try using this. But when I just pulled this out with the needle all the way up, I didn't have that weird clunking. So I'm thinking something may be off. Perhaps with the cutting mechanism in here, perhaps the blade is dull or something might be caught. I'll need to check into that later. But on 2 pieces of vinyl, really nice straight stitching, no wiggliness. Everything is nicely lined up. The tension looks really fantastic. I'm very happy with that. We're going to toss our 2 layers of vinyl and our waterproof canvas right here on top, and I'm just going to stitch through all of those. So at various points here, we'll be going through 4 layers and into 3 layers and 2 different types of material here. try cutting the project here. The razor is really close to the back edge here, so we don't actually have to drag all the way through these tracks and pull. So that's pretty nice. It's responsive because the blade is so far out here toward the edge of the mechanism. Still protected, so you're not going to cut yourself, but it is nice that you don't have to pull it all the way through that assembly. As you saw it and heard it, it did not skip a beat through all those layers, and the stitching still looks just as nice. And there are no tension issues whatsoever. Everything looks fantastic. In fact, the stitching almost looks a little bit better once we get into those thicker layers. So that's exciting. And then you did see me just do a little bit of a back stitch there just to see how it behaved when I put it in reverse while I was still going forward. So I didn't stop and then put it in reverse. I put it in reverse as I was stitching forward. And that was important for me to listen to how the motor shifted. And the motor handled that beautifully. It didn't make a lot of noise. It just nicely, did what I asked. So yeah, I've been saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it. I really am impressed. I am going to try out the knee lift here, and I have just installed it. You simply insert it into the machine. Now there is an adjustment screw here on top that the previous knee lifts from all the other machines did not have. And what that's going to do, if you loosen it, and then you go ahead and pull, in or out, on the small screw, you'll notice what's happening here is the mechanism down here is actually moving to the left or the right, depending on where we have it adjusted. And that's going to make adjustments for people who have more or less height, as well as the point at which their knee and or leg sits below the desk. So you can actually adjust this in or out to allow the lever down here to be more into the left, so it will touch the right side of your knee here. It can be more or less, depending on how you adjust this. So I have pretty long legs. I'm of larger stature, so I'm actually going to leave mine all the way in. But if you are smaller, you have a child working on the machine, or you are thinner legged and you are not able to get a comfortable position on some of these other knee lifts, one like this might be something to look into, because this is the first one I've seen that has this adjustment. So I will go ahead and tighten this screw back up and leave it just as is. But you may find that that makes this a much more comfortable seating position for you. We'll go ahead and install that by just pushing it all the way in. And now we are where we need to go. I think that's a pretty comfortable position for me. I might actually end up tilting it in a little bit, but for today's purposes, I think we're good to go here. At this stage, I think that we are ready to get into a project. As you guys know, if you've watched my review videos, you have seen that I like to put the machine through a real project, something that I would sew all the time. So today, normally I try to do something that has vinyl, that has some different interfacings, and at least 2 different materials. One of those being vinyl. Usually what I end up using is like a cotton woven. And then I also like to try to install a zipper. Now, a couple of things to note. This machine did not come with any zipper foot at all, so I'll be having to use my own zipper foot, which is just from my industrial machine. Frankly, I have a few. I'll probably use a Teflon zipper foot today, but I'm not really sure which one I'm going to grab, but I will be grabbing my own zipper foot. And then I am using a different project today. Normally I use a small pouch, but today I'm going to try out the zip away tote. I've been making lots of those. I just shot a full tutorial for this bag. Today will not be a full tutorial. Today is just me messing around to see how this works. But I will be using the zip away tote from By George because I happen to have a slew of them cut out, and it kind of meets the criteria for having, vinyl cotton woven. We're also going to be using webbing as well as installing a zipper. That being said, I'm going to hop into this project, and once I'm all done with it, I am going to give you my final thoughts on this machine. All right, we finished our project on this Elna ef1, and now it's time to go through a full breakdown for you and give you all of my final thoughts. So it's all folded up now just so that I can examine all of the top stitching through the vinyl. I can look at the overall zipper quality of the stitching, how if the zipper looks wavy, all those things. And this little pouch looks exactly the same as the few that I have sitting back here that I have been making for weeks. So I would definitely say that this machine is fully capable of handling any bag making project. Obviously within reason, every machine has its limits, but I do not think that this machine wouldn't be able to handle anything that I normally make, especially things like vinyl projects, waterproof canvas, things like 4-fold vinyl for straps, all that good stuff. As far as the performance test on a project goes, this one gets 5 stars. Before I go through the full ratings, let's go ahead and revisit a few of the categories so I can tell you how exactly I'm going to rate this machine in the end. At the beginning of this review and unboxing, I went through all the features of this machine, pointing out what everything on this machine did, and we talked about some of the key features that I was looking forward to. After using this machine on a project, I can safely report back that this machine, for its features, is going to get a 5-star. I'm really, really happy with the extra light that's on this machine. None of the previous machines I have reviewed have had the extra light. I really did feel like I was missing it. This machine came to the rescue with that extra light right here in the throat space. Not only is it there, it's also bright. It's a really nice, bright, cool color. So it makes bright fabrics like reds, yellows, all those warmer tone fabrics really easy to see when I'm stitching. Overall, I am just so pleased with the light setup on this machine, in addition to a lot of the other features. Another key feature I am very happy to report back that I was super happy about, this speed control on the front of the machine. I have been missing that on one of the other machines I have reviewed, and then a separate machine I reviewed had the speed control, but that speed control was not enough to make up for the other things I did not like about that machine. This machine overall has performed really well, and those are just a couple of the key features that I really enjoyed about it, in addition to all the other ones that we talked about earlier. So again, 5 stars for the features that come on this machine. Next, let's talk about the accessories. So for the accessories on this machine, I'm going to give it a 4.5 star. I'm only going with 4.5 stars because the things that I didn't like about the accessories, or accessories that didn't come with it for this price point, are not things that are going to be detrimental, and they're not things that I cannot easily fix. So one of the things that I did not love was the dust cover on this machine. I felt like it was very generic and cheap. I also didn't feel like it matched the aesthetic or the feel of this machine. And I would have really liked to see a logo, coordinating colors, anything that made that dust cover feel a little bit more to the price point of this machine. I also was a little bit bummed out that this machine did not come with an extension table. I'm not certain if you are able to purchase an extension table for this machine, but I'm willing to bet that either the company makes one for the machine or there's an aftermarket one out there. In the end, I also felt like for this price point, being on the higher end of the machines that I'm reviewing, I really wanted this machine to come with more feet, such as a zipper foot, perhaps a Teflon foot, a walking foot. We only got a few feet with this machine, and it's enough to get us started. But as a bag maker, you're going to need to purchase more accessory feet to get you where you need to go. In the end, accessories are something that we can easily fix by purchasing more of them. I would rather see the company spend the money that we're spending on the machine on parts on the inside of the machine. Things like extra lights, speed control, a heavier duty motor, a quieter motor. All of those things are things this machine has, and we can't buy those after the fact or change them once we've committed to a machine. Let's briefly visit the manual and directions. So I pointed this out at the beginning, and I wasn't sure how helpful it was going to be, but in the end, I was really thankful for this, and I'm so glad that the manufacturer decided to put this on the machine. We have that beautiful guide up here with the wonderful pictures and numbering to tell us exactly what we need to do to wind a bobbin. So there is no guesswork. There is a handy resource right here for you to visit. You'll hardly ever have to pull out your manual, if at all. You also get a second version of that guide here on the front for all of your front threading steps. So if you're frustrated or tired at the end of the day, you're thinking that you may have threaded your bobbin wrong, something just isn't quite right, you can use this guide to reference and make sure you didn't skip a step. It happens to all of us at the end of a long sewing day sometimes. I really appreciate that, and I'm including these as part of the manual and directions because they've literally taken these right out of the manual and put them right onto the machine. In addition to these key parts, the manual itself has really detailed, very simply written, easy to digest directions. It includes pictures that are clear and very easy to see. It has numbering on the pictures, and the numbers correspond with the numbered steps of the directions. So there's no guesswork. I didn't have to reread and reread the directions. It was really quite quick for me to be able to pick up how to use this machine, even though it's got a few different quirks that I haven't previously seen on other machines. Due to everything being so well written, so well pictured, so easy to follow, I'm definitely giving the directions and manual a 5-star. Let's talk about the overall user experience. I touched on a few of these things in a couple of the past categories that I've rated. My overall user experience on this machine is a 5-star plus. I am so happy with this machine and its overall performance. This one absolutely blows every machine out of the water that I have reviewed thus far. The motor is so incredibly smooth and quiet. Sometimes I honestly wondered if it was actually sewing or if there was a problem because I couldn't hear any type of struggle in it. I was constantly having to stop and look like, is it actually picking up the bobbin thread? Oh wow, it is. It's just sewing along beautifully. It didn't matter if I was using vinyl over zipper, 2 pieces of cotton woven together, going over webbing, through cotton woven. Anything I did, this machine was able to handle it with ease. The motor absolutely performed beautifully, and it made it a great user experience for me. I didn't have to listen to uncomfortable, clunky grinding noises. I didn't have to worry that something was breaking on the machine when I was using certain features of it. And again, it just was comforting to use. Some of the previous machines I reviewed had loud motors. They were just sort of uncomfortable to be around. They felt labored. They felt like maybe the motor was not the best quality, and I did not have any of those feelings while using this machine. Additional key things about the user experience that just made this machine an overall pleasure to sew on. Again, the additional light here, the big bright lights here, overall made it really easy to see, really easy to stitch on. I felt like the throat space was not only adequate, but then some. It was more than enough space to work on my project, and I could definitely see getting big bags under here. The knee lift experience was really great. I loved that adjustability that I showed you guys with the screw on top. I did end up getting to adjust that just a little bit for my body and get myself to a really comfortable position. Not only that, it was able to more than accommodate my very thick standing desk. My desk is a lot thicker than your traditional sewing desk, so some of the knee lifts had a hard time accommodating that or they just didn't work at all. But this one not only works, but the lever at the front of it is long enough that I can push the machine away from me and have a comfortable distance with my arms out in front of me so I don't have to crunch and I don't have to hunch over the machine. So that again made the user experience really good all around. Another thing that made the user experience really fantastic, the ease of bobbin winding. The winding is really straightforward. You get the handy guide here on top, but not only when you're finished winding your bobbin does it stop itself, it also clicks out of the gear, which is something none of the other machines have done. It's a little thing, but again, it's the little things that make that user experience so much more enjoyable. The one drawback, but I am not going to dock off points for it because I haven't figured out exactly what it is I'm doing to make it not work correctly. The thread cutter. The thread cutter works fine 90% of the time, but there are a few different things that I was trying that I would have a little bit of an issue where it would cut all the way, but it was making a noise that I don't think means that it was happy. I'm not sure if it wants me to have the foot up or down when I use it. I'm not sure if it is possibly a small timing issue or where the needle position is stopping when it's set on the up-down position. It seems to work better when the needle is up versus when it is down. But I also still was having an issue replicating this problem, this noise it was making consistently. So I'm not going to dock points off that because I feel like when it worked, which was most of the time, it worked flawlessly and it worked really good. And in the end, if that's the one thing that I had to sacrifice and not use because I didn't enjoy it, I enjoyed everything else about this machine 10 times more than any other machine that I have sewn on recently and in this review series. That is something I would be willing to overlook. You, however, might have a different opinion, but again, overall, I'm going to give this user experience a 5-star. Really, the biggest thing I can say about this machine is it was an absolute pleasure to sew on. I think I covered all of this in my review, and I think that it is safe to say you guys can tell I am very happy with this machine. My final thoughts about this entire series so far and all of these reviews is this seems to be an issue of you get what you pay for. I started off my reviews with a cheaper machine, graduating next to a slightly more expensive machine, this being in the series next at a higher price point. Each time we move from machine to machine, we increase the price by about $200 to maybe $300. Every time we did that, we gained new features that really are important, such as speed control or extra lighting. My last final thought wrap up on this machine is that the tuning of this machine seems very well dialed in. The foot pedal is very well in tune with the actual speed of the machine. I'm getting in what I'm putting out. If I press the pedal ever so slightly, I get a slow stitch speed. If I press the pedal hard, I'm getting an increase equal to the amount that I'm pressing the pedal. In some of my previous reviews, I mentioned one of the machines really liked to take off, and after talking with a few of you out there, you told me you had the same machine and you were experiencing the same issue. That leads me to believe that overall it's just a tuning situation with that machine, and there's nothing that I'm going to be able to do about it, especially since that particular machine does not feature the speed control. That's one of the reasons I always recommend having a speed control. I'm not sure if this machine would have performed as well without the speed control, but the point is we have it, and at no time during stitching on this machine did the machine eat my project or try to take off in any kind of crazy uncontrolled way. So I just feel like overall, for the additional money on this machine, we may be getting a few less accessories, but overall, we are getting a much better quality machine, a much better engineered machine, not to mention it's just pretty and really a joy to have in my sewing space. Hopefully this was helpful to you. I'm going to link down below my other review videos in case you're new to this series and you'd like to see the other reviews for the other semi-industrial machines. Thank you so much for joining me for another unboxing and review. If you found this video helpful or you like my content, please consider subscribing to the channel so you can watch future videos as we release them. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you very much for inviting me into your space today. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.